What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Strong Life Podcast. I'm your host and your boy, Zach Evanesh, and the Strong Life Podcast is brought to you by my friends from Sorinex. Check them out at sorinex.com. And move this mic in a little bit. Recent podcast, I shared my experience from Winter Strong. Just posted a video on my Instagram, give you a little idea of things. And somebody reached out to me, a friend of mine. He reads the newsletter, which you could get on over at zachstrength.com. By the way, when you subscribe to my newsletter, it's uncensored. Okay. So if you're sensitive, I highly recommend you don't subscribe. It's number one. Number two, the training course you're gifted with is not some weak ass giveaway that other people do during, their newsletter giveaways. It's a program that you can follow and get strong as all hell. Or if you're a coach, you can have your athletes follow that program. And it's something that's more powerful than, majority of stuff that people are selling. And so I want to give you a taste of what it's like when you're working with me. So this episode is going to be Q&A style. And I've got 3 questions and we're just going to kind of let it flow. Some training stuff, some life stuff. And today's Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. We got a little snow here in New Jersey. And I'm going to get some training in. Yesterday had a great day. My buddy Jay took me to the gun range. And I've known Jay for a long time. He visited me the first time we met was the fall of 2007. He visited me at the Underground Strength Gym. He was a cop at the time, still is a cop. And he wanted to get into strength and conditioning. He had already done, I believe, some internships at the time, but he wanted to see if he could do something as many police officers do. They have a schedule that allows them to do something on the side. And I always tell, I don't want to say always tell, but I often tell coaches who are aspiring to get into the private sector, as much as we hear, oh, you got to be all in or you're a pussy, you're a chicken shit. A lot of people don't have the business acumen. So I always recommend going into it part-time. And even though my hours of operation have always been part-time, I was able to build it into a full-time income. And by the way, this coming Saturday, which is February 19th, I'm doing a seminar with the guys at Varsity House Gym. They also have a podcast called The Business of Strength. So we're doing a Business of Strength seminar. It's up in North Jersey, even though the address says New York. I believe it's actually New Jersey. The zip code messes it up. And if you're a coach, you should get there. You should get your learn on. Just like yesterday, I had Jay coaching me in firearms training. It made such a massive difference because the week before, or now it's 2 weeks ago, I was at Winter Strong. And I was being trained by the team for that Scott Valcourtson brought, Valcourtson Firearms. It was the very thing. That was the main goal of going to Winter Strong, is I wanted to learn how to shoot and be safe. And then we were using Scott's guns, the Valcourtson Firearms. So I have a Glock. So it's a different feel, a lot more recoil for sure. And also just being in a gun range the first time versus being outside, different noise level. The guy next to me yesterday was shooting a shotgun. So it was freaking noisy when that stuff was going on. But Jay went over safety. Also, when I was at Winter Strong, I used the red dot for my sight. I don't have a Glock with that. And I really like using the iron sight. It was really cool. So he started me at 5 yards target practice, then 7, then 10 yards. And my last time shooting, I was at my best. And, we were there for about an hour. I'm not sure how many magazines I went through, maybe 8 magazines. I'd say 8 magazines, possibly 10. I don't recall. But it was like, wow, imagine trying to figure this out myself. You just can't replicate a in-person coach versus trying to learn it through YouTube. I mean, infinitely different. And it's the same thing when I coach athletes. Like, I am emotionally okay with them struggling because I know if they show up 3 times a week for the next 2 weeks, they're going to be completely transformed within 2 weeks. Not completely, but kids who can't do push-ups are now doing push-ups. Kids who are doing a farmer walk with 35-pound kettlebells are now using 53s. They're pushing a sled with 1 plate. Now it's 2 or 3 plates. They're doing 2 or 3 or 4 push-ups. Now they're doing 8, 10, 12, 15 push-ups. Some of those reps are double to triple of what they did 2 weeks ago. Then you see the mental transformation. So having a coach is so much more powerful. And I just wanted to hit that, guys. So if you're a strength coach, Business of Strength seminar, it's businessofstrength.com/January. So let's get into these questions. These are great questions, training, life, fatherhood questions. If you're interested in a lot of like dad talk, my buddy Ryan Mickler has a podcast called Order of Man. He does another podcast with his son, Man in the Making, which I need to listen to. He does it with his son, and his son is amazing. His son, Brecken, I believe, is 13. I met him when he was 11. I traveled up to Maine before a family vacation, and Brecken struggled on push-ups. We had him doing push-ups with his hands elevated on a bench, and he was a little bit of like a chunkier kid. And I see him on Instagram like 6 months later, like lean. He went through a little growth spurt. He started exercising on the regular, and such a kind-hearted kid. I mean, the whole family, just amazing. But now the kid's setting state records in powerlifting in Maine. Why? His dad got him to a coach. He's got a strength coach, a powerlifting coach. Certainly you could do these things on your own in your garage when you're isolated, but your efforts and your results are multiplied when you're around a positive environment that inspires you and challenges you, and you have a coach, because now you have expert instruction. You're accountable. It just takes you to the next level. This past week, I did a business coaching call with a friend of mine, and we've been in a mastermind together for probably 10 years. But he went into another direction with his business. He sold his fitness business. While in the fitness industry, he had accrued a lot of assets through real estate. And I wanted to get on a call with him. I wanted to do a business call with him. He's my friend. And guess what? I paid him. It was $500 because, number one, on my end, for him, it shows him Zach is serious. He's got skin in the game. He's not going to waste my time on the phone. Time is precious, right? Time is your most valuable asset. It's the thing you never get back when it's lost. Even with this podcast, I always want it to be powerful for you because you are giving me your time. Okay. This might be a quote unquote free podcast, but as I always say, nothing is free. We pay somehow, some way. We may not be paying through money. You pay through effort. You pay through time. You pay through commitment. Okay, so we're paying. But long story short, I got a coach. Now I'm accountable to somebody. Now I have to take more action because the next coaching call, I don't want him to say, so Zach, tell me what you've done since last time. Oh, I did nothing. He'd be like, you're not serious and you're fired. He'd fire me. Okay, so now I'm freaking more fired up to take action. So get a coach, you crazy kids. All right, let's get on with the questions. This is from the Instagram Messenger. So if you're on YouTube, I just showed you that it's the real deal. So this is a heavy question. And for my friends out there who know me, let me take a sip of my tea, baby. By the way, speaking of tea and coffee, congrats to Black Rifle Coffee. They have gone public. Okay. So that means they are now a publicly traded stock. I bought some stock in Black Rifle Coffee on Thursday. I should have bought it on Wednesday, but I totally forgot. I hate to admit it. So on Wednesday, I think opening stock was like $10. Thursday, I believe we're at like $15 or $16. So I'll watch it. If it drops, I'll buy more. But keep an eye on those things. And it's cool to just support those guys. They're awesome. They donated a ton of stuff last minute when we did our recent fundraiser for the Navy SEALs Fund at my gym, where I partnered with Sornex on that. We did a Dead December challenge. So that might be something on the regular. It was great. Okay. Here's a heavy question for you. This is what he says. I have 3 children, girls 12 and 11, and my son is 7. They all play sports year round, and I see that as a great opportunity to market. He is a strength coach. My oldest, excuse me, guys, hates training with me and is at best just an average athlete. So his oldest is 12 years old. How can I talk to parents and market my training when a quote walking billboard of my own blood unquote is not a great athlete? My son is a wrestler, that's his 7-year-old, and dominates, so that is easy. All right, so a couple things here. 12 and 11 is no indication of what your daughter will be in the future, and neither is a 7-year-old. I knew people who had boys that were dominating wrestling at age 7, 8, or 9. And as they got older, they just got out of it. They weren't tough. They didn't love wrestling. The area I'm in is called the Shore Conference. The Jersey Shore area has very tough wrestling, extremely tough wrestling. And so around here, if you are not training your ass off and going to a wrestling club or improving your wrestling skills through judo, or you're not lifting hard, kind of combining all that together, you will struggle in this area. And so it's probably like that everywhere. The competition is tough because kids are out there training, and then there's plenty of kids not training. Now, I want to say I rarely train my own kids. When they go to the underground, they're with my other coaches, because I learned this many years ago from Joe Ken, Big House Power, my bro. And I've done podcasts with him. He may have mentioned it on the podcast. He said, there's a fine line between coaching and being a parent, and your kids want you to be their dad. They don't want you to be their coach. And when I coach, I don't discriminate against who's in the weight room, meaning, you could be my son, my daughter. I kicked my son out of the gym a couple of months ago. I made him leave. It just doesn't work. The weight room to me is a sacred place. And I might be more on that extreme level than many people, meaning I've grown up around the weights, around those Ivanko deep dish plates rumbling. I've seen that the weight room doesn't care, the gym, the weights, it doesn't care about the money in your bank account, the color of your skin, your ethnicity, your religion, what kind of car you drive, who your mommy or daddy is. It doesn't give a shit. You earn everything. And so that's the beauty, is the weight room does not discriminate. And so your kids are just babies. 11 and 12 years old is a baby. And your daughter, she can become a great athlete if she wants to. And sometimes that desire does not kick in until they're upperclassmen of high school or until senior year. What I recommend is, if you have other coaches at your gym, they get to train there when you are not coaching. I also recommend that you kind of expose them to different people who can impart their wisdom, because great coaches change lives. It's not the sport that changes lives. It's the great coaches. Take a quick sip of tea here. Meaning, people will say football's the best sport, soccer's the best sport, wrestling's the best, tennis is the best, blah, blah, blah. What is the best is, do we have a great coach who can talk to the kids about more than training, talk to them about life? And I'm going to give you an example. I'm at a high school every day. I train 3 groups after school, on average 50 kids in a group, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. At the end, recently especially, I talk to them about excellence in everything. So when you're done, you pick up garbage outside. Okay, they're waiting in like a sport bubble. I don't want, even if it's not yours, you pick up water bottles, protein bar wrappers, sandwich, Ziploc bags. You clean up after yourself. In class, you make it so that the teacher thinks you're the best kid. You sit up front, you participate, you crush your schoolwork, you demonstrate excellence in all areas. And I look for these things from my children's coaches. Does my coach only speak to my son about basketball skills and baseball skills, or do you talk about life? What about my daughter's coaches? Do they speak to her about mindset, about being tough and gritty when you're down in points and coming back and fighting back to win, just as we need to do it in life when times are tough? Do they talk to them about it? They do not. Not that I've seen. So I think that is going to help your kids get better. The other thing is, what kind of kids are at your gym? What environment have you created that builds them up? And I tell you, I'm a very hands off with my kids' sports, meaning I don't coach or push or yada, yada. I support, I take them to it. If they're struggling, I give them and teach them opportunities to improve without me pushing. So let's say my son is struggling with something in baseball. All right, I'll take you to get extra coaching, or go outside and hit off the tee. Or he brings stuff to my gym and he gets set up in his catching gear and he has me throw it to him. I stink at baseball, but I help him how he needs to be helped. My daughter, if she's struggling with tennis, my buddy Tex McQuilkin over at Power Athlete said one of his favorite books is The Inner Game of Tennis. I got my daughter that book. It's up to her to read that book. And so, training your kids can be very, very difficult. Training with your kids can be something they might love more. And so I'm trying to figure out how to word this. If they love doing stuff with you, they might want to succeed in sports to make you proud. That might be their driving factor. But at age 7, 11, and 12, it's very hard for kids to have this athleticism. You have some kids who are maybe a little bit more genetically gifted, but get your kids into and give them opportunities where they can be around great coaches and great athletes, and it elevates their level of performance. And don't use your kids for marketing. That's, end of story, period, end of story. It's your business. Your family is something else. And that being said, with regards to marketing, I'm going to really get into this, of course, at the Business of Strength seminar on February 19th. But I utilize reviews and testimonials and screenshots of emails all the time. Parents are constantly thanking us, not just for what it does for the sport that their child is playing and competing in. They also talk about the mindset and the confidence factor. All right. So it's a tough one, but remember, be a dad first. Coaching is your business. So next question. This is from my friend David. He's gone through the underground strength coach certification. He's traveled to the gym. He's based in Ohio. He's a former Marine, but he's also picked up a physical education job. They brought him in as a substitute teacher, a permanent sub, because there's a massive teacher shortage. I think it's going on all around the country. I mean, being a teacher, I got to admit, I'm, in strength and conditioning. I'm in the physical education department. Teachers are viewed very often by the public as the enemy. Public schools are viewed as the enemy. Parents will complain when kids don't get a certain grade that they actually didn't earn, but we give them an easy grade so the parents don't complain about it. That's the truth. And I look every day in my school district, they're posting jobs like crazy for custodians, for teachers. And so it goes to show you that teachers are not getting paid what they deserve and or what they're worth, and people don't want to become teachers. And so there's a shortage. In my early days of teaching, I would see teachers substitute teaching for years on end. they could not find a job. I mean, I'm talking years. They were just bouncing around from school to school in the same district. Maybe they weren't looking in other school districts, but back then, teachers were not leaving. They were staying for 25, 30 years. Whereas today, you see young teachers get into it, and in like 2 or 3 years, they act like they're burnt out. I'm doing a little rant here, but also this younger generation, at least what I've seen in phys ed, they're not engaged. They're on their phones. I mean, they're not really teaching. And I think if you want to be great at anything, teaching, being a welder, I'm thinking that because I want to weld, you have to give a shit. And if you don't genuinely care, you will struggle to be great at those things. So David's got a question. He's in a middle school. He was asking, how can I create an assessment for 20 middle school kids? He says, I wanted to start off with a functional movement pattern type of assessment for the middle school phys ed. I want to test the squat, push-up, pull-up, or recline row, core strength, etc. I'll have recline rows available if they can't do the pull-up or the bar hang. I'll properly modify each exercise to the individual's level. I'm just wondering how to best organize it with 20 kids. While one kid is being assessed, I don't want the rest of the kids getting restless while waiting. Should I have them doing something while waiting? All right, good question here. Number one, in middle school, it's going to be very hard to assess a push-up, a pull-up, a squat, and I'm going to tell you why. Unless they've been taught how to properly do these exercises, it's probably going to look pretty crappy. And kids today are infinitely weaker, more so than ever before. I've got high school seniors who cannot do proper push-ups. They do their head down, they sag the core, and so they would get a 0 on doing a push-up. And so that's up to you if you want to assess them on those exercises. I think you could do a couple of real simple things. You can do a 400-meter run or a 1-mile run, but it's quite cold in Ohio, so you're going to be wrestling with the weather. I guarantee you very few of your kids will be able to do a proper pull-up, with their arms fully extended and not swinging their legs around looking like a mess. Number two, I'm trying, push-ups. The way to do a good push-up, I would say, is to do a hand release push-up, right? So how many push-ups? What is your max push-ups you could get? Hand release push-up, and the body must leave the floor at the same time. So, okay, now you're testing a few kids, but then the rest of the kids, what are they doing? You could have stations going on, but then, oh no, they're fatigued before the stations. So I got to tell you, I was at the elementary school for all my years. I'm at the high school for strength and conditioning. So I don't need to do any kind of test or anything like that, but you could certainly build them up on exercises, teach them squats, lunges. I do that stuff during the warm up. But I would do things that like you could get many kids going on. So I'd love to see a 400-meter run, maybe an 800-meter. I don't know why I sound so weak, but like we test a mile, in middle school, a kid should be able to run a mile in like 8 minutes, 7 minutes, probably 8 minutes. And that being said, like a mile is not hard. I grew up in the 80s and we were running miles a day, running to and from everybody's house, playing manhunt. Today, kids could barely run a 400-meter. Physical education, our standards have gone down because kids complain. And that's why I don't want to be involved really with physical education at that level. I'd rather create it on my own, like the strength and conditioning. Or if Joe DeSena and I had mentioned, we always want to open a Spartan school. And I did a podcast with Matt Beaudreau on the Acton Academy. The Acton Academy, I think, would have more freedom to allow us to do that. So that being said, how are you going to test the squat? Like, if you do like a military style test, you could give them 60 seconds where they have to squat down and their butt has to touch a Dynamax medicine ball, but you may not have one. So what you have to do is create a standard. The kids have to learn the standard so they can see it with their eyes, and then everybody partners up. So let's say you and I were partners, all the kids partner up, but then you need 10 medicine balls. Okay. Everybody has to squat down to touch the medicine ball, stand all the way up. What does that look like? That's 1 rep. Okay. They don't touch the medicine ball. If you don't have a medicine ball, kids are not going to squat all the way down. They're going to stop at about halfway, and then they're going to bend over at the trunk, which is incorrect squatting pattern. So that would be no rep. So you're going to have to teach the kids how to do a proper squat. You can utilize media. Excuse me. You can record yourself performing a squat. You could share that squat to a Google Classroom or onto a YouTube video. And then the kids have to watch it. Then they have to demonstrate it, learn how it's done so they know how to judge it. And then they could judge each other. Push-ups could be hand release. If the kid's body does not come up as 1, it's a 0 rep. So you could say, we're going to do max hand release push-ups in a minute, which is very long, by the way. You might do a minute of squats, 30 seconds of hand release push-ups, and a 400-meter run, an 800-meter run, or a 1-mile run. Recline row is tricky because where's the body position? Is the student directly under the bar or the rings or the TRX strap, or are they leaning back? So you could also just do a dead hang, which is a test of grip strength, which requires no skill whatsoever. Hey, John, hey, Jennifer, you're going to jump up, hang from the bar, and we're going to see how long you could hang for. Period. End of story. You could put a 1-minute time cap on it. So if they get a minute, it's, a certain grade. And then what you really do in education is you're not so much grading them according to how many reps they get. You grade them according to improvement. So you're going to retest them in 6 weeks or in 30 days. And you could do that throughout the rest of the year. There's a lot of ways to do it. And then you're incorporating these exercises into your warm up, your daily activity. You're giving them exercises to do. But at middle school, listen, most kids are very weak. When I train a middle school kid at my gym, they struggle on push-ups and squats. So technically it gets very hard. I think squatting is going to be hard. So I would let's remove all skill from everything. Let's do a 400-meter run, 800-meter, or 1 mile. Pick a run. Do a dead hang and do a hand release push-up. Do those 3 things. Don't complicate it. Because if you're doing squats, now we need a bunch of medicine balls to make sure they go down all the way. Because then their partner's like, well, they almost went down all the way. And, now there's a lack of like a reliable judge. So dead hang, a run, and hand release push-ups. Boom. Incorporate the underground strength gym style movement prep. And by the way, I just went into the Underground Strength Academy, undergroundstrengthcoach.com, and I added a video of a large group warm-up movement prep. Looks like there's about 60 kids in that group. It's a group of wrestlers, baseball players, and lacrosse players. I train these teams together, and they're all different size groups. But you see me, I take them outside. I do 6 lines. That style warm-up should be done at your middle school. Okay. This, I believe, is the last question. It's from Levi, who's been following me for a while. Okay. This is a question about pull-ups and push-ups. Hey, Zach, I'm all set to enlist in the U.S. Army as a combat medic in the Ranger Regiment, and I really need my push-ups and pull-up numbers to stand out. Now, I don't know if, when you go to the Army, you got to go through basic training. Then you got to do like Ranger qualification. So I'm not so sure you could just enlist to become a Ranger. You have to go through some hellish training for that. But anyway, he says, I really need my push-ups and pull-up numbers to stand out. And I'm stuck at about 45 push-ups straight and 15 pull-ups for over a year now. I'm having a tough time breaking through that barrier. I have scoured your website and YouTube channel for tips, but couldn't find much. So I often tell people, hey, go on the search bar for YouTube or ZachEvanish.com. I've tried other programs, but they just don't stick for lasting progress. I want to get the best info possible, so I'm going straight to the horse's mouth. You. Could you possibly make a video on YouTube regarding this topic? I certainly will make a video on this, but I'm going to break it down and explain. So for those of you listening, you could go to @ZEvanesh. That's me on YouTube. And you can check out, I think I've got about 5,000 videos now. And you could type in calisthenics, body weight training, pull-ups, push-ups. Couple of things. Number one, improving push-ups is also going to come with improving pushing strength. So I would work different push-up variations with a conjugate method, clapping push-ups for power, weighted and resisted push-ups for more strength, using a weight vest, chains, band resisted push-ups. You could also do dips, which increases your pushing strength. And you also need to do resistance training, benching, military presses, dumbbell benching, because as you get stronger at them, it does have a carryover to push-ups. At least it did for me. With regards to pull-ups, you can't just rep them out. You need to utilize almost like a training wave, like what Louis Simmons talks about. So let's say he's talking about training, max effort on your squat. You might go 80, 85, 90%, week 1, 80%, week 2, 85%, week 3, 90%. Then the next week, it might be 83%, 88%, 94%. So you're doing these waves with adding weight to your pull-ups. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to be right back. So pull-ups can be split up the same way as I recommend with push-ups. You could have a strength day where you're doing weighted pull-ups, and repetitions could be 1 rep, 2 reps, 3 reps. Usually when I'm doing weighted pull-ups, I like to be in the 3 to 6 rep range, although you could go a little bit higher. Then you have your other day where you're doing repetition work of pull-ups or total volume work of pull-ups, meaning Monday, I'm going to get 50 total pull-ups. Next Monday, I'm going to get 55 total pull-ups. The next Monday, I'm going to get 60 total pull-ups. And then you could begin a new 3-week cycle. I'm going to go 53 total pull-ups, 58, 63. But where I think people miss out is they don't do weighted calisthenics. They don't do strength work to boost up those exercises. So if you're only doing high reps and kind of maxing out, and you don't have a good plan with progressions and then backing off, those are called a 3-week wave, then you hit a wall, you burn out. And also, like I said, utilizing other methods of getting stronger in pulling, although it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes doing dumbbell rows and things like that, they do not boost your pull-ups because we have the law of specificity. So a couple things here. Number one, if somebody's real serious about calisthenics, they should get my body weight bodybuilding course, because we have a strength day, we have a repetition day, we have a speed day, we have a muscle building day, higher reps also, or slower tempo work. And then we have like a freestyle day, building athleticism, walking on hands, things of that nature. So remember, in training, there are many ways to get stronger, and you have the law of specificity, and then you have exercises and movements that help build the specific. So same thing in running. If I want to get good at distance running, I do need to distance run. I need the law of specificity, but I'll also improve my running if I have 1 day a week where I do speed work, sprint training to work on the power, and also another day of the week where I strengthen the body. I'm not just going to say muscles, it's tendons, it's ligaments, it's also the mindset. So I want to squat, I want to deadlift. Running is also improved, when I'm doing pull-ups, because of how the body works together. So having a plan, a 3-week wave would be great. Incorporating a strength day with your body weight work would be great. Like I said, on push-ups, you could do band resisted push-ups. You can do chain push-ups where the chain is around your neck or around your torso, or weighted vest. You could also do dips in the same fashion where you're doing reps of dips, strength resisted dips, whether it's adding a vest, adding a band. And that, to me, is where a lot of people make mistakes. You did mention that you scoured my YouTube and my website. I recall doing this video a long time ago. It was at my Edison, my first underground strength gym, doing ladders in pull-ups. So pull-ups and dips. So I did one pull-up and one dip with whatever, 2 chains on. Then I did 2 of each, 3 of each, 4 of each, 5 of each. Then you repeat that ladder. That ladder method is very powerful. And I also want to, I remember this. I'm looking up on my Instagram. My friend Jared, I got to look up his name, Klingenberg. Let me see if I can find him. He posted a really cool, here we go, the Big Kling. Let's see if I can do this. He posted a pull-up program on his Instagram. It may have only been in the stories because now I do not see it, but it was a volume pull-up program. And maybe it was in his story. Crap. Sorry, guys. I don't see it anymore. Hold on. Let's see. Strongest shall survive. He had it, and it was a pull-up program, and it was volume-based. It was like 10 sets of 2. Next time, it was 11 sets of 2. Next time it was 12 sets of 2. Then start over. 10 sets of 3, 11 sets of 3, 12 sets of 3. Then the next time it was something, keep bumping up the volume. It was like higher sets, lower reps. Well, it's not there anymore. But I'll do a video on this. That'll be a little bit more dialed in. But that's all I got for you guys today. Today is Super Bowl. I'm going to get out and train. I don't really watch sports too much, although last night I was watching some Big Ten wrestling, and I got to watch Rutgers versus Maryland. And I was hoping I would see some of the big rivals. I believe Iowa wrestled Oklahoma, and Ohio State was wrestling Minnesota. Those were not on the Big Ten network, but I'm going to clean my gun. I'm going to get some training in, and I'm going to have a great day. And again, this is brought to you by Sorenex.com. If you're looking at any Sorenex equipment and you need help, ideas, setting up a home gym, garage, basement, setting up a high school, setting up university, reach out to me. I've been using Sorenex equipment since 2003. So I've had multiple different squat racks and pieces of equipment from them. And what would I do according to the space available, how many kids I'm going to be training, etc. I could help you out. And then I could put you in touch with the right people at Sorenex if you want to get like a rendering, a computer rendering of what the layout would look like if you're setting up a gym. So I've helped a lot of people do that. And go to ZachStrength.com, get your free training course, get on the Uncensored newsletter, and training options, training opportunities. I've got Gladiator Strong on Train Heroic. You get a 7-day free intro, and the Business of Strength seminar is coming this Saturday. businessofstrength.com/January. Why January? Because it was planned 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, but we had that snowstorm, so we had to cancel it. And so now we are this coming Saturday, which is February 19th. I'm going to crush it. I'm really excited to not just talk about the growth of business, but making money outside of the strength and conditioning field, having assets, bringing in more money. That's not just through the training business. I think that is a smart way to do things. So very excited to get my learn on from Dan, Joe, their head strength coach, Adam Menner. He is going to talk about building a business within another business. So the guys at Varsity House have a large facility. Then they have satellite facilities. They have multiple businesses under one roof, under the umbrella of Varsity House Gym. It's going to be real powerful. And like I said earlier, if you want to be great, if you want to improve, you got to get a coach. So hope everybody learned from this Strong Life podcast. Keep leaving those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We're close to 500 reviews. This would be what we just did today is episode 299. I'm coming up on episode 300, and I'll have to come up with like a special. I don't know what it's going to be, but something cool. Thanks to everybody for watching, listening, reviewing, sharing. You guys are awesome. I love you, and I'm out of here.